Deep within Japan's mountainous heartlands lie the remnants of vanished post stations once connected by winding mountain passes, silent sentinels of a forgotten era known as the Silk Road towns. These isolated settlements, long deserted, are more than mere ruins. Local folklore shrouds the paths between them in mystery and unease, warning travelers of unseen presences that linger in the shadows. Those who venture near speak in hushed tones of cursed roadways where spirits, known as Yurei, drift through the mist, their mournful cries echoing among the ancient trees. The mountain roads themselves are often described as forbidden places. Some say these routes were sealed off centuries ago, not merely due to nature's reclaiming, but because of dark events whispered in local legend, tales of travelers who disappeared without a trace, or who returned forever changed, haunted by visions of otherworldly creatures. It is said that these spirits are not only restless dead, but also yokai, mysterious entities that embody the fears and warnings of the villagers who once depended on these dangerous passages. Near some of these abandoned post stations stand shrines half swallowed by moss and thorn. These shrines were once erected as safeguards, intended to appease mountain gods and ward off the mischievous or malevolent beings said to roam the highlands. Yet folklore remembers that even these sacred sites could not banish the eerie atmosphere. Travelers reportedly received whispered warnings in the wind or found talisman charms disrupted as if by invisible hands. Local elders often spoke of Tengu, winged mountain demons known for leading the unwary astray or testing their courage amid the dense forests. Such legends add to the sense of a place suspended between worlds, where the boundary between the living and the supernatural thins. Ghostly sightings have been reported as recently as the modern era. Figures clad in tattered clothing, faces blurred like mist, fleetingly appear at dusk on deserted trails. Some accounts describe hearing the faint sound of footsteps following in rhythm, only to vanish when looked at directly. Travelers who ignored warnings sometimes speak of a lingering chill or an oppressive silence that descends suddenly, cutting through the stillness like a warning sigh from the mountain spirits. Though these stories cannot be verified, they persist in local memory, shaping how people perceive the abandoned Silk Road towns and their once bustling post stations. The mountain villages themselves seem to resist time's march, frozen in a half-forgotten realm. Roofs collapse and walls crumble, yet the air feels charged with old energies, perhaps the residue of the ancient trade routes that once ran through these corridors, where merchants, monks, and travelers crossed paths under watchful eyes. The folklore that grew around these lost towns acts as a silent guardian, ensuring that those who dare traverse these forgotten highways remain respectful and cautious. Walking these paths today, one cannot escape the impression that beyond the physical decay, there survives a web of spectral stories and hidden warnings. Whether these tales stem from genuine experiences or the collective imagination born of fear and reverence, they contribute to a haunting landscape where history and legend intertwine. The post towns that once dotted these mountain passes were vital nodes along an ancient trade route often likened to a Silk Road stretching through Japan's rugged interior. While not part of the famous continental Silk Road, these villages connected distant regions through trade and travel, inviting merchants, pilgrims, and wanderers into an intricate web of commerce and culture. Archaeological and historical records confirm the rise of these post stations as thriving waypoints for travelers seeking provisions, lodging, and rest. Historically, these towns emerged during periods when mountain passes were the only feasible routes linking isolated provinces. Their inns and tea houses served not only as shelter, but also as bustling hubs where stories and goods exchanged hands. Yet, woven tightly into the sparse records of their existence are threads of folklore that speak to much darker aspects of life in these harsh, often lonely places. Local belief held that the mountains surrounding these posts were inhabited by powerful spirits and yokai, beings both protective and perilous. Folklore remembered Tengu, winged, often mischievous mountain demons known for deceiving travelers or punishing arrogance, mostly active near the forested cliffs and towering peaks. These entities were imagined as guardians of the mountain's secret paths, punishing those who showed disrespect or ventured too far without proper offerings. Shrines erected near the post stations were said to honor mountain kami, spirits whose favor was essential to ensure safe passage. Yet, despite these sacred protections, accounts persisted of cursed roads leading to abrupt disappearances or unexplained misfortunes. Some versions of the stories claim that the decline of many Silk Road towns coincided with a rise in supernatural activity. Villagers taught that when strangers appeared on the roads and never reached the towns, it was because Uriai, restless ghosts of the dead, or other spectral beings led them astray or ensnared their souls in the forests. The mountains, after all, seemed to shift and confuse travelers, with fog swallowing paths and sudden changes in the weather amplifying the eerie atmosphere. Over centuries, storytelling traditions captured these chilling encounters, blending memory with myth. In some accounts, fleeting shadows would be glimpsed at dusk or dawn, forms too vague to identify, yet too deliberate in movement to dismiss as mere animals. Others spoke of whispered calls, carried on the wind, warning or beckoning travelers deeper into the wilderness. It is important to note that these stories often served as warnings by the local communities, designed to keep people cautious in a landscape known for its real dangers: steep ravines, sudden storms, and treacherous terrain. The belief was not proof, but it shaped how people understood the natural risks alongside the supernatural ones. The fading of these post towns is linked to changing travel routes and economic shifts, yet folklore remembers a more ominous cause. As trade declined, villagers said the mountain spirits grew restless, and some shrines fell into neglect, their protective power waning. The deserted towns were said to become magnets for hungry yokai and wandering uriai, their presence felt in cold breezes that seemed to move against the natural flow. The abandoned post stations and their worn mountain roads remain powerful symbols within Japan's cultural landscape precisely because they exist at the intersection of tangible history and intangible folklore. The stories of yokai wandering these forsaken paths reflect a deep-rooted human impulse to give voice to the unknown, to explain the eerie silence that settles over crumbling villages and overgrown trails. These legends are not mere entertainment. They function as spiritual maps, guiding present-day visitors through a realm where nature and the supernatural coexist uneasily. In many cases, the folklore surrounding these Silk Road towns serves as a form of protection, not only for travelers, but also for the natural and cultural heritage embedded in these remote places. The belief in mountain gods and guardian spirits helped ensure that visitors approached the land with reverence and caution, preserving sacred spaces from reckless intrusion. Such cautionary tales about Tengu, Uriai, and other local spirits became woven into the fabric of community memory, marking boundaries that were as much moral and spiritual as they were geographical. This delicate balance hints at a worldview which respects the power of the mountains and forests beyond straightforward human control. In Japan, the demarcation between the living world and the spirit realm is often fluid. The ruins of these Silk Road towns, half hidden beneath moss and rust, act as threshold zones where that boundary grows thin. It is here that the memory of vanished peoples and forgotten journeys lingers, made present by whispered warnings and spectral glimpses. Local legends about cursed roads continuing to mislead the unwary can be seen as reflections of nature's own unpredictability. The sudden fogs, shifting trails, and unstable terrain that confuse the senses and challenge human expectations. These natural hazards, experienced by generations of travelers, became a source of fear and respect, ultimately transformed into stories of restless or capricious yokai inhabiting the liminal space between worlds. And yet, these ghostly figures are also embodiments of cultural resilience. They keep alive the memory of once thriving communities, drawing attention to places lost to time and change. They invite contemplation rather than dismissal, encouraging those who wander these silent paths to pause and listen to the wind, to the rustle of leaves, and to the long echoes of old spirits who have yet to move on. The ongoing presence of these tales in local imagination confirms the enduring role of folklore as a living, breathing medium connecting past and present. While the Silk Road towns themselves may never be resurrected, their spectral guardians and whispered legends offer a quiet sanctuary for mystery and reflection in a rapidly modernizing world. In this way, the abandoned villages and shadowed passes remain more than relics. They're sacred places of liminality where history, nature, and spirit converge. The mountain shrines, though weathered, still stand as silent markers honoring the unseen forces that shape the land. It is in this richness of belief and memory that the true importance of these haunted places becomes clear, a reminder that some roads are less about reaching a destination and more about journeying through the fragile veil that separates.